Welcome back to Encycloman. Today, we take you inside the deadliest conflict in human history. A war that killed 85 million people. A war that changed every border, every government, and every life on Earth. This is the complete history of World War II. Stay until the end, because the final fact will change the way you see this war forever. World War II did not begin in 1939. It began in 1919 with the Treaty of Versailles. Germany was humiliated, forced to accept full blame for World War I, stripped of territory, and crushed under reparations it could never pay. The Great Depression then destroyed the German economy. 30% unemployment, breadlines, despair. Into this broken nation stepped Adolf Hitler, promising revenge, glory, and greatness. He rebuilt the military in secret. He remilitarized the Rhineland. He annexed Austria. He took Czechoslovakia. Each time, Britain and France did nothing, hoping to avoid another war. Their policy of appeasement only made Hitler bolder. On the 1st of September, 1939, at 4:45 inches the morning, Germany invaded Poland. It was the largest military operation in history at that point. 1.5 million German soldiers, 2,000 tanks, and 1,000 aircraft struck from 3 directions simultaneously. The Polish army fought heroically, but was overwhelmed. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. World War II had begun. Then, on September 17th, the Soviet Union, which had secretly signed a pact with Hitler, invaded Poland from the east. In 35 days, Poland was conquered. The country was divided between Germany and the Soviet Union. In May 1940, Hitler launched his attack on Western Europe. In just 6 weeks, he conquered France, something Germany had failed to do in 4 years of World War I. The secret was the Ardennes, a forest everyone assumed was impassable. German tanks drove through it and cut off the Allied armies from behind. 338,000 British and French soldiers were trapped at Dunkirk. In a miracle of improvisation, 900 civilian boats, fishing vessels, pleasure crafts, ferries crossed the English Channel and rescued them. France surrendered on June 22nd. Britain now stood alone against Nazi Germany. Hitler now turned his eyes to Britain. To invade, he first needed to destroy the Royal Air Force. In the summer of 1940, the Luftwaffe launched the largest air campaign in history. Day after day, hundreds of German aircraft attacked RAF airfields, radar stations, and factories. The RAF, outnumbered, exhausted, fought back with extraordinary courage. The margin was razor thin. At one point, just 25 pilots stood between Britain and defeat. Then Hitler made a fatal mistake. He switched from bombing airfields to bombing London. The Blitz killed 43,000 civilians, but it gave the RAF time to recover. Britain survived. On the 22nd of June 1941, Hitler launched the largest military invasion in human history. Operation Barbarossa. 3.8 million soldiers, 3,600 tanks, and 2,700 aircraft struck the Soviet Union along a 2,900-kilometer front. In the first weeks, the Germans advanced 500 miles and captured 3 million Soviet soldiers. The world expected the Soviet Union to collapse within months. But the Soviets retreated, regrouped, and fought back with ferocity no one had anticipated. The Battle of Moscow stopped the Germans cold. And then the Russian winter arrived, temperatures of minus 40 degrees, for which the German army was completely unprepared. On the 7th of December, 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the American naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. 353 Japanese aircraft struck in 2 waves. In under 2 hours, 8 American battleships were damaged or sunk, 188 aircraft were destroyed, and 2,403 Americans were killed. President Roosevelt called it a date which will live in infamy and asked Congress for a declaration of war. 4 days later, Hitler declared war on the United States, perhaps his greatest strategic mistake. America, with its vast industrial power and population of 130 million, was now fully in the war. The balance had permanently shifted against the Axis. While the war raged on battlefields, Nazi Germany was carrying out history's greatest crime, the Holocaust. Beginning in 1941, the Nazi regime implemented the final solution, the systematic murder of every Jewish person in Europe. 6 death camps were built in occupied Poland: Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor, Belzec, Chelmno, and Majdanek, designed to kill thousands per day. Jewish families were loaded onto cattle cars and murdered on arrival. By the end of the war, 6 million Jewish people had been killed, 2/3 of all Jews in Europe. The Holocaust stands as the darkest chapter in human history. By late 1942, the war began to turn. At El Alamein, British General Montgomery defeated Rommel in North Africa. At Stalingrad, the most brutal battle in human history raged for 6 months. Germany sent 300,000 men to capture the city. Soviet forces encircled them. Rather than surrender, Hitler ordered them to fight to the last man. In February 1943, 91,000 frostbitten survivors surrendered. It was the moment the world knew Germany would lose. In the Pacific, the Battle of Midway saw America sink 4 Japanese aircraft carriers. Japan's naval power broken in a single day. The 6th of June, 1944. D-Day, the largest seaborne invasion in history. 156,000 Allied troops from America, Britain, Canada, and other nations crossed the English Channel and stormed the beaches of Normandy, France. The planning had taken 2 years. The fighting on the beaches was horrific. On Omaha Beach alone, over 2,000 Americans were killed in the first hours. But by nightfall, the Allies had established a beachhead. Over the next weeks, 2 million soldiers poured into France. Paris was liberated in August. By September, Allied forces had reached the German border. The liberation of Europe had begun. Of God. By early 1945, Germany was collapsing from all sides. Soviet forces were advancing from the east, Allied forces from the west. Hitler's last desperate counteroffensive, the Battle of the Bulge, failed. In April 1945, Soviet forces reached Berlin. Hitler, in his underground bunker, refused to surrender. On April 30th, as Soviet soldiers fought street by street toward his bunker, Adolf Hitler shot himself. 1 week later, on the 8th of May, 1945, VE Day, Germany surrendered unconditionally. The war in Europe was over. 6 years, tens of millions dead. The war with Japan continued. Despite devastating losses, Japan refused to surrender. An Allied invasion of Japan was planned. Military estimates projected between 250,000 and 1 million Allied deaths. President Truman made the decision to use a new weapon, the atomic bomb. On the 6th of August 1945, the Enola Gay dropped Little Boy on Hiroshima. 70,000 people died instantly. 3 days later, Fat Man was dropped on Nagasaki, 40,000 more dead. Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender on the 15th of August, 1945. On September 2 VJ Day, Japan formally surrendered. World War II was over. And now, the fact that changes everything. The deadliest weapon used in World War II was not the atomic bomb. It was not the tank, the aircraft, or the submarine. The deadliest weapon was an idea. The idea that one group of human beings was superior to another. That idea killed 85 million people. Every war in human history has begun with the same weapon, an idea. Which means the most powerful force for peace is also an idea. The idea that every human life has equal worth. Subscribe and share this video with someone who loves history.